inside a century.
I want to kind of root this in a campaign and actually get some of your input as to where we should head with our Think Outside the Bottle campaign. And I'm also conscious of time and the fact that folks have to go. So let's just do this kind of quickly. But so Think Outside the Bottle, in a nutshell, challenges the marketing muscle of bottled water corporations and works to promote public water over bottled water. It's basically taking on corporate control of water in its most visible form here in the United States. One of the strategies that we're pursuing this year for our 2008 overall goals is actually our targets, and you were asking a little bit about this before, for this campaign are Coke, Nestle, and Pepsi. They're the big three water bottlers in the country. Coke, Nestle, and Pepsi. So Coke is Dasani, Pepsi's Aquafina, and Nestle's a little bit sneakier. They have lots of brands, Arrowhead, Poland Spring, Mountain View, a whole bunch of different ones. Nestle's a little bit different. They actually do bottle spring water, whereas Coke and Pepsi are both come from municipal sources. They're actually tap water. Nestle bottles spring sources, and they're also a little bit more insidious in that they go into communities, oftentimes against their will, and bottle the water just to sell back to people at thousands of times the price. They often get pretty sweetheart deals in terms of the price that they actually pay for the water that they're taking out of the communities.
Have those bottle companies been held accountable for the amount of plastic debris that's that is left in the environment?
Yeah,
That's part of the campaign.
that's part of the campaign, is just exposing the tremendous environmental impact of and oil. I mean, it goes back to petroleum. It's 17 million barrels of petroleum are used in the production and transportation of bottled water in this country alone each year. So the carbon footprint of bottled water is immense. The bottled water corporations got a little bit sneaky. They've responded to our campaign in a number of ways around the recycling thing. That's been kind of the easiest hook for them to pull off. They don't really like the corporate control angle so much, because that would do away their whole business. But they have clung on to this environmental argument and have slenderized their bottles so that they actually use.
Arrowhead's commercial where they're using 30% less plastic because it's
Exactly.
smaller at the top and therefore it's okay
Exactly.
They make the bottles smaller
to use more bottles.
Right.
I saw one report somewhere on television where they were reporting about the community in New York, I think, somewhere, that it was a supermarket or something that had set up a machine so you could bring back in your water jug and fill up the water right there. You could refill, so rather than recycling the bottle, you could just. But I mean, the ultimate stupidity of this whole thing is that here are people bringing in a plastic jug to fill it up with water when they could go into their own bathroom and do the same thing for free. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I know.
Well, they have it in almost any health food store, whether it's a food co-op or the Whole Foods supermarket. They have that, and it is mineral water or spring water or osmosis filtered water.
Insane.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be much healthier water for you, and at least
You gotta get a filter at your house and do the same thing.
The convenience argument is one that we often come up against. Just like, oh, it's super convenient. But I always like to just ask, like, oh yeah, it's so convenient when you have to go to the grocery store, go to the shopping cart, haul this huge case of bottled water, back out to your car, put it in your car, drive home, and then lug it back into the house, only to have that convenient bottled water.
This might be pushing you into a discussion you're not wanting to have, but it's a question I've wanted to ask is, there is an issue of a tremendous lack of regulation over the water that's in our taps. So lots of us do live in communities. I live in one that has very poor, unregulated tap water. And I use filters. I'm not saying that isn't the solution, but there clearly is a regulatory breakdown with communities who have very poor water.
Huge. And I mean, that's actually part of our, this country right now, we face a $22 million budget shortfall between the amount of money that we need to invest in our public water systems and the amount of money that we're actually putting into our public water systems. And we very much need to be spending more money in creating so that we have safe public water for all.
I think an interim measure here is actually to raise awareness of availability and relative cheapness, certainly compared to buying bottled water, of home filtration systems.
Right. Yeah.
They're cheap, they're easy to install, they're effective. Until we get safe and clean public water for everybody, that's a better alternative for most people, certainly, than buying bottled water. It's one that I think probably, given the popularity of bottled water, a lot of people are simply oblivious to.
So the goal it could be, just to protect your friend, safe, clean public water for all. And then one of the strategies is getting companies to stop mass producing plastic water bottles.
I have a question, like, Coke and Pepsi, I mean, Dasani, where's the source at? Where do they get their tap water? They use the best tap water in the States.
That is a very good question, and that is at the heart of our campaign, which is that they do not make that public. We don't know. No, there's no disclosure. There's no disclosure about that.
There's no disclosure whatsoever.
No. So this is something that a lot of folks don't know, which is that bottled water is really not very well regulated. It's regulated by the FDA. There's a lot of voluntary self-regulation involved. For example, they're supposed to disclose when they have a breach in product safety. But we haven't really seen a lot of that happen. But there's no one necessarily testing. Your tap water is regulated much more than bottled water is. And one of our demands to the bottled water corporations, to Coke, Pepsi, and Nestle, is to reveal the sources and sites of the water that they bottle. And this actually leads into our action piece for today, which is that we had a great victory this past summer where our members across the country, perhaps Sharon was involved in this, I'm not sure, was sending emails to Pepsi and Coke and getting on the phone. On our National Day of Action this past summer, Pepsi shut down their phone lines, which is pretty rare. It's pretty cool when corporations shut down their phone lines. And they actually put on a recording that said,
for training purposes.
We're actually all in a meeting right now, working to figure out how we're going to respond to your questions and comments. Which is just excellent to have that much transparency, right? So, we kept calling back. We had people out, we had organizers out on the Boston Common, just stopping people and saying, hey, will you give Pepsi a call right now? Here's what we're talking about. So we're like, stop having people call, but just maybe, once every 15 minutes to just kind of see if it's the same message. About 3 hours later, all of our activists who had ever sent Pepsi an email received an email from Pepsi saying that in response to the outpouring of their, asking questions, emails, phone calls, and all that they were going to change their labels to spell out public water source on all of their Aquafina labels, which was huge. I mean, it was tremendous. The really fun part about this is that we were like, this is amazing, this is so exciting. It was about 2 o'clock on a Friday when this all happened, and we immediately wrote up a press release, put it out on the wires. About an hour and a half after that, the phone just starts ringing off the hook. At 5:30 that afternoon, we had every CBS, NBC, CNN all come to our office. Well, we went to go to CNN. And we totally just blew this story out of the water. Pepsi totally underestimated how it was going to affect them, and how many people were actually had no idea that their product was actually tap water, and now they just said that they were going to admit to everybody that this is just tap water. The media had a field day with it.
So you guys were the directors, all of that? Because I remember hearing about Aquafina and Dasani being like, it's tap water. And so you guys did that?
All comes down to organizers.
It's all comes down